Hi everyone, Ted Wyman here to talk about the 109th Grey Cup, in which the Winnipeg Blue Bombers will face the Toronto Argonauts with storylines abounding. It's going to be something pretty impressive just in the fact that the Bombers are going for their third straight Grey Cup, which something that hasn't been done in many, many years in the CFL, and are inching towards earning the name Dynasty for what they've been doing here in Winnipeg. So joining me today to talk about the Grey Cup is my good friend Murray McCormick from the Regina Leader-Post. And Murray, this is a very interesting matchup. Hard to believe, Murray. The Blue Bombers and the Argonauts have not met in the Grey Cup since 1950. How is that even possible in a 9-team league?
I don't know how it is. And the problem is I kind of remember that Mud Bowl a little bit. Not that I was born yet. But you've always, sure? Pretty sure, you've always seen the clips and the highlights of the Mud Bowl and stories about some guy almost drowning in one of the mud puddles that I think people will probably look into. So yeah, it is. It seems crazy, especially, but there was a stretch when Winnipeg was in the East Division. So it was pretty hard for them to be in the Grey Cup. I don't know how long that stretch was, Ted. You probably remember better than I do.
They've been in the West more.
Been in the West more, okay. But it does seem two storied franchises have never met in the Grey Cup since 1950. It does seem kind of odd, but holy smokes, I think the two best teams are in the Grey Cup. I really do. Mind you, I would have been fine with any of the four finalists. Nathan Rourke brought a great story. It would have been a great story in the BC Lions, the greatest young Canadian quarterback. I liked Montreal trying to get here with what they were doing with their offense. I still like Toronto, and Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg deserves to be here. They did everything right this year. They had some issues and stuff, and that's half the fun of covering a team is you got to have some downs so you can appreciate the ups. So I think Winnipeg is 100% deserves to be here. And just to add a little more spice to the overall game is here comes Andrew Harris, who looks a little bigger. I thought he looked a little bigger on TV, but boy, he was running with authority, and that's going to be a great story. I think you guys are going to be all over that. We still got to write about the Bombers too, though. So it's going to be interesting to see how we handle all these stories in really only like a 4-day window. It's going to be a challenge, I think.
Well, it's going to be fun, Murray, for sure. And Regina is always a great place for a Grey Cup. So very much looking forward to that. But, you talk about that Andrew Harris situation. That is a juicy storyline. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, the fact is he's a guy from Winnipeg. Even if he wasn't a former Bomber, it's a Winnipegger who would be trying to knock Winnipeg off its perch. And another storyline that's very interesting to me is this could be the best season in the history of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. 92 years. They've never won 15 games in the regular season before. Add 2 to that, you're going to have 17, which would be the most that they've ever had. And it's only ever been done 6 times in CFL history. And interestingly, Murray, the only team that ever won 18 games was the Baltimore Stallions, who did their 18th win at Taylor Field in Regina, winning the Grey Cup. So that's wow. I think this is a really epic season for the Blue Bombers. They've just been so good in so many departments. I don't really see, if the Bombers are on top of their game, the Argos beating them. But there is that one factor that you and I both know about, and that's that Zach Collaros did bang up his ankle in the West Final against the BC Lions. And, it didn't look great. It didn't look like he was able to go when he tried to get back into the game. He talked a good game after, saying that it was fine. There's no question he'll be playing. Mike O'Shea said he's not concerned. He doesn't think it's going to be an issue. But it's certainly going to be something everyone's looking at this week. And as you know, the hype gets even bigger at Grey Cup. And it's going to be a situation where even if he does get in the lineup, you have to wonder just how effective he's going to be when his ankle isn't 100%. So do you see that as the biggest storyline, Murr, or what's on your mind in that area?
For a non-Blue Bomber guy, yes, that's the biggest story of the Grey Cup. I think how he deals with it, and I kind of feel sorry for him in a way because he's done everything right, and if he just gets injured in this was a weird kind of play, caught his ankle and twisted, and I wanted to see him get healthy. I want to see him win as much as he can. Everyone knows he was in Regina here for a few years before that big trade, and a huge trade now looking back. Turned out to be, that trade, that 4th-round pick turned out to be? Kean Schaefer-Baker, though. So it was a pretty good deal.
Not bad. I think the Bombers will take the 2 Grey Cups and the 2 MOPs.
Yeah, I think they'll take that ahead of that, too. But, yeah, I really think we're going to be all watching that to see how he limps and to see what happens. Even if do you think he'll even be available to talk to the media for the first couple of days? Do you think the Bombers kind of keep him away, or
I
what do you?
think so. I mean, he was available yesterday, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, right after the game, he sat there right in front of the media, very close. He was walking around. I actually followed him when he went back into the locker room. I just was, just by happenstance, I was heading in that direction, and it looked like he was limping a bit, but I mean, his spirits were very high. He did not seem like a guy that was worried about what the situation is going to be for next week. Now, as you and I both know, until he's really sat down with the trainers, gotten all the equipment off and had a good look at it, and then felt what it's like the next day, you don't know for sure. But, I think they're looking at it as probably being a sprain, probably nothing too major at this point, and something that they can manage. That being said, the Bombers are absolute masters of keeping these kind of things under wraps. So, and I wouldn't put subterfuge past them either. They're certainly would be trying to throw people off the scent that there might be something going on there. So, great thing to watch, no doubt. But one thing I'm interested in, Murray, is just how do you think Saskatchewan feels about this matchup? I mean, it's a great place to have a Grey Cup there in Regina, but they wanted the Riders to be in it, and the Riders didn't make the playoffs. Now their arch rival is going to take over the Rough Riders locker room. How do you think people feel about that?
Well, I know the team wasn't happy about it, but if they weren't unhappy about it, they could have done one thing. They could have made the playoffs and made their own run towards keeping the Bombers out of their locker room. The Bombers are going to be. So I've never been in the Bombers locker room. I don't know how nice it is compared to the Rider. The Rider locker room is a palace, and they've done that when they built it. They made that in mind to make sure the players are truly spoiled in that whole area. So I think it's mixed feelings. I think the Rough Rider fans have kind of reached the point where, yeah, they aren't in the playoffs. Let's have some fun at the Grey Cup. I don't think there's a lot of people saying, and I think it's kind of funny. Now, someone don't want either team to win. There seems to be a dislike for Toronto and a dislike for Winnipeg. So some team's going to win somehow. And saying that, but I think we've had a long enough time to kind of get over the what's happened with the Riders, what happened to the playoffs. We've had enough digging into and enough analysis and contextual things done on them that I think they're ready to move on. And boy, you look at the schedule of events for the Grey Cup, it's a party for the adults. It always is the Grand National Drunk, but they're doing so much for kids and families and stuff that it's really going to be, like, I haven't been to one since 13, so things have kind of changed for me on Grey Cups. Not like you, who gets to go every year. Lately, late was a long stretch before that. But they've really done, I think, I look at an admirable job of getting the whole city involved, the whole province involved. And they have had time to plan it because 2020, when it's supposed to be here, was canceled. So they've had a little extra time to kind of stretch things out. But I think Regina is just ready to have a Grey Cup, ready to have a big party. The team party sections, one of the cool things about it, I'm kind of signing towards Regina here, is everything's going to be at Real District. All the team party rooms are going to be in this Cooperator Center. The Trade Center where the Riderville is going to be is a massive facility that's going to have that. The games at Mosaic Stadium, there's EA Sports are going to be involved in the Branch Center. So once you get to the on-site, you don't have to go anywhere, which is kind of a nice part, but there's still going to be sort of satellite stuff downtown and whatnot, but nothing like, everything's going to be centered right in the Real District, which is Evraz Place for people who haven't been here in a while. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of late nights, early mornings, but that's what comes with the Grey Cup, I guess.
That is the Grey Cup in a nutshell, isn't it? I one of the first Grey Cups I ever went to outside of Winnipeg was 1995 in Regina, and it was an amazing. That was truly, in my memory, one of the best Grey Cups I ever went to, and I think it was the first time Regina ever hosted it.
It was the first time.
And they put on an incrediable party. It was a great show. The game wasn't as good, it was a weird one with Baltimore and Calgary, but and it was crazy cold. I remember how windy it was. It was one of the windiest days you'd ever see on the almost had to cancel the game. It was so windy. But my question for you really, Murray, is does that still resonate? Does the Grey Cup still resonate in that same way in Regina? Because I always equate Regina with being the epicenter of the CFL in terms of fan appreciation. Does the Grey Cup still hold that kind of reverence there, or do you think it's going to be a little diminished from what we once would have seen?
I think it still holds. The game's sold out, which it always is. So I know it's going to be a full stadium, and I think they've done enough to kind of keep it in the forefront of what's going on. Like it's not going to be like in Toronto or Vancouver, these bigger cities, where it gets kind of lost. It's the only event in town right now. The Pats are on the road. Everything's out of the way. I think they're still going to embrace the Grey Cup. I think as I said, the disappointment of the Riders season, we've been beating each other up for that for 7 weeks, or it seems like a month and a half now with the Riders. So I think there is the feeling the Grey Cup is a big deal. They're looking forward to a party. I think I kind of hate to say we're kind of ready to let go, aren't we? It's been like 2 years, man, of COVID and lockdowns and things and question marks and vaccines and stuff. I'm kind of ready to leave my car at home, go to Rio, have a couple of drinks, meet people, talk to them, and just have some fun with nothing but fun in mind and no other parts about it, and then trying to get to the game on Sunday.
We'll see. We'll see, right? After a week like that, it might be tough.
Oh, I know. I'm a little old for that kind of world, but I'm willing to give it my best shot. And it'll be fun to just. I kind of got, and I know this may sound, I kind of got a little taste of what Saskatchewan can bring to a major event when I went and staffed Touchdown Atlantic in Nova Scotia when they had it, and you got to see all the Rider fans, and you kind of read the tweets and stuff, and you just kind of see the kind of negative Rider fans. You don't meet the fans who are absolute diehards that would travel to Nova Scotia in the middle of summer, and you realize then that they're kind of cool people and they're kind of like to have fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of the diehards, who not less of the diehards and more of the casual fans who just love football and love having a party, and some of the bands are going to be great. So geez, I'm getting myself pumped up for this. I better kind of cool down. I still got to get through today.
Hey man, I know. Well, the Grey Cup is the time to get pumped up, and even if you're an old media guy like you and I are, it's just it's a fun time of year. It's special, and I'm glad that it still exists, to be honest, because it's a great tradition of this country that maybe CFL football isn't always at the forefront anymore, but when it's Grey Cup week and you're in Grey Cup City, it really is in the forefront, and I really enjoy that. And I gotta say that it'll be very interesting to see how many Winnipeg fans end up there, Murray. I think people probably would have started snapping up some tickets already in anticipation that the Bombers might be there, but I'm sure a lot more will be trying to get them now at this point. And I think we see a lot of Winnipeg fans there just for a Labor Day Classic. I think you're going to see a pretty good takeover of the lighter color of blue, I guess. There's all kinds of blue in this game. There's
a double blue Grey Cup.
So, the Bomber, I do think you're going to see a pretty heavy Bomber presence in terms of the fan base for this game, and should be like a home game for them.
I guess as a real reporter, I could have done my research on the resale, how many resale tickets are out there, the retail markets. The Riders said it's about what they expected, so I have to figure out the numbers. So they expect to be a resale market, that some people just aren't going to go to the game because it's not the Riders. I would think if I didn't have to go, I would just go hang around the field before the game started. It looks like there's a lot of stuff going on pregame, then you can see the game and go home and watch it in the warmth of your house in front of your 65-inch high def TV with the fire going. So maybe that's a way that some people might approach it. But I think, I know I'm leaning towards the Bombers, and I'm saying, but I think Toronto's going to be better than we think. I think McLeod Bethel Thompson had probably the game of his life against the Alouettes. I like their receiving core, the defensive backs. They got a comparable defensive line to the Blue Bombers, I think. Offensive line, a little bit of an edge towards the Bombers, I think. It's hard to, who knows what we know about offensive linemen. Running backs is almost a saw-off, I think, a little bit with AJ Ouellette in there. And so I think it's going to be a better game than people think. Mind you, who knows with the CFL? But I don't know, Ted, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be a closer battle than a lot of people
I
are
think
thinking?
so. And I'll tell you one reason why. The Bombers always struggle playing against the Toronto Argos. The Argos beat them last year. The only team in a game that was really meaningful. The only team to beat the Bombers last year was the Toronto Argos. This year it was 23-22 for Winnipeg, and Boris Beatty missed the convert that would have tied the game. It's close. Plus the Bombers lost this year to Montreal. They lost this year to Hamilton. Like, you can look at the East Division and say it's inferior to the West, and it is, but the best team in the West actually didn't play that great against those teams in the East. So, I mean, I do think there's a very good chance of it being a close game, of Toronto being in there. But I think if you're going to look across the board at that game, I think Winnipeg wins it in almost every way. Even the intangibles of things, I think they go to Winnipeg. I think the experience goes to Winnipeg. And you saw what the Bombers were able to do to Nathan Rourke. They really threw him off his game. That was partly helped by a very loud crowd, which might not be the case at the Grey Cup, but this, their defense really put that BC offense into disarray. And I have a feeling they'll do the same thing to McLeod Bethel Thompson. And then the question just becomes, how healthy is Collaros? How well can he connect with his receivers? How much can Brady Oliveira duplicate of what he did last week? I think that all those things can happen. So I'm definitely predicting a Blue Bomber win. And I think that they should absolutely be favorites. But I'm never shocked when different things happen in a one-game scenario,
I'm old enough to remember when the Edmonton Eskimos were putting together their 5-year dominant streak, and some of the strange games they played, like ice bowls and different things. So do you think we could start, if the Bombers win, can we start throwing their name around and say with that Eskimos team that won 5 in a row?
Yeah.
Can we put
I think so, Murray, because I think the word dynasty is already being thrown out there. And I think that's where people put the threshold is, 2 in a row is great. 3 in a row is at least bordering on a dynasty, right? And I mean, it hasn't been done since the last great dynasty in the CFL, which was the Edmonton football team back in 1978 to 82. The Bombers would be the first to do that, to get 3 in a row. And I mean, if they do it, if they win 3 in a row, I don't know what's going to possibly happen to prevent them from being a contender again next year and in the years to come. They've got Zach Collaros locked up, and they've got a lot of these great players who are going to want to return, because why would you leave a situation like this? Listen, Murray, I think we've probably done enough of this for today, but let's catch up a couple more times in the Grey Cup. I'll be out in Regina starting on Tuesday. Of course, Murray's there all the time, and we will be collaborating on all kinds of coverage for Post Media. So for Murray McCormick, I'm Ted Wyman. Thanks for watching.